The entity known as Nigeria was created in 1914 by the colonial masters when the northern and southern protectorates were merged by the first Governor-General of the colony and Protectorate of Nigeria, Sir Frederick Lugard. But this year marks 100 years of that amalgamation. How has the territory known as Nigeria fared over the last 100 years? My guest is a professor of political science and the executive director of the Nnamani Center for Leadership and Development. Hello there, glad to have you join us on the program this week. I'm Gloria Omezuke. Now, how did a diverse people, language and culture become one nation? This is one question my guest will be addressing this week as we reflect on the amalgamation and leadership problems in the country. And don't forget, this issue has raised a lot of eyebrows, so we would examine that. But first, the Minister of Information, Mr. Labaran Mako, believes that the 1914 exercise that gave birth to the nation known as Nigeria has a divine purpose. Listen to him.
Some people continue to argue that the emergence of Nigeria is a matter of geographical expression, or Nigeria came to being by force of Britain. Now tell me, and I want to say it clearly, every other country came into being by force, either of one family conquering other families to establish its own civilization, or one clan conquering other clans to establish its own authority in a community or a kingdom, or one country conquering other countries to establish an empire. No nation came into being by lovemaking. Every nation came into being by force. So if Nigeria came into being because Britain conquered some of the territories and made them one country, that is how every country came in. These are matters beyond us. But the reality is that God has a hand in every drama. And nations emerge as a result of the drama of human activity.
I'm being joined on the program by the Executive Director of the Nnamani Center for Leadership and Development, and we speak all about the Centenary celebration. Professor Ebere Onwudiwe, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's begin with Nigeria's 100 years of nationhood, even though that is still under contention. What really is your own view of our journey so far?
Okay, well, I think there is need to acknowledge the fact that the North and the South were brought together at one point in our history, but not looked at. That's a historical fact. And that anything that lives on for 100 years is worth celebration of some sort. And to that extent, the country is justified to celebrate a century of being together. But amalgamation that took place was a fusion of administrations. And anybody can do that. It's not that big deal to bring two administrations together as such. But what is important in my view is the amalgamation of Nigerian peoples rather than administration, which is implied by the amalgamation of northern and southern administrations under Lugard. While that was, as I said, easy to make successful, it has not been so. That success cannot spill over to the amalgamation of Nigerian peoples to create a truly Nigerianized community.
Well, many people say that the legality of the amalgamation has expired. Is that true?
Well, I'm not a historian. I can't say if it is absolutely true or not. But what I do know is that the most important question is the amalgamation of the peoples. And in that we have had a total failure. We have had a very, very deep failure in creating the coming together of Nigerians from all parts of the amalgamated.
Even though we've spent 100 years, according to them now. Now, let me bring you to this comment made recently by the governor of Lagos State, Governor Fashola. He said, but as far as Centinary is concerned, Nigeria was born an independent sovereign country on October 1, 1960. And he said perhaps Nigeria was conceived in 1914. As we race towards this, it is important not to distort history. Is this a distortion?
Well, it's not a distortion because the two things did take place as historical realities. We did have our independence declaration, and as, with respect to Fashola, the governor's statement, that is true, that's when Nigeria as an independent nation took place. But it was a process. It was a process that started with imperialism, and that imperialism translated into colonialism, and it was under that colonial situation that we got our independence. The amalgamation was not the same thing as the colonial period. And so our own founding fathers fought to become independent from colonialism. And I think that they failed us while battling over the issues of amalgamation that threw up colonialism, that produced the contestations by those founding fathers that didn't pay any particular attention in creating one people, in creating a nation. We don't have a Nigerian nation because a nation is a reference to a people. What we have is a country, is a territorial expression, and that territorial expression may be what is causing the confusion that is going on now.
All right, because it's important to understand where we are, find our bearing, in as regards this celebration, the proposed celebration. Because we have another comment. Someone also said, if anything, only a day of sober reflection should be observed, with all Nigerians pondering their journey to where the nation is and what they should do to turn things around. And they said no celebration, no public fanfare. That's a little extreme, but I'd like to really hear your comments, because he also says government officials at all levels with their heads in their hands, should spend even more time meditating on their failure, to the nation and seek restitution. Yes. How much of this do you believe?
Well, I mean, I believe there's been a great failure in the project Nigeria. And that failure has been the inability of our leaders since independence to actually work against what colonialism established. Look, if you look at the map of Nigeria, you immediately see the imbalance. There is this huge north that is sitting on the shoulders of a feeble southwest and southeast. It was looking like a suffocating picture. And this imbalance, which was imposed by the colonial powers, was the source of agitation. It was the source of discomfort that this country has had to bear all these years. And none of our leaders, whether it was Ahmadu Bello, Azikiwe, Awolowo, these great three who had their own merits, none of them did anything to correct that imbalance until the war happened. It was that war which forced the federal side to create states, 12 states, equally distributed between South and North, 6 each. And these 12 states were created to seek the minority support for the war against Biafra. And that situation is what started to correct this imbalance of the geography.
But
did
it eventually do that?
Pardon?
It did not succeed in any way, did it?
Well, yes. The map is still there, but the one central government is now not the same. We now have 36 states as opposed to 3 regions. And that had a way of removing that agitation some, even though some people still want some states. But that first picture that was imposed as a result of the amalgamation, because the maps were not done by Nigerians. The map of Nigeria was imposed by colonial power. That actually was a distortion that is now being reduced through the creation of states.
Now, it seems almost, hard to believe that the nation is still grappling with the concept, for want of a better word, of unity, because even as we celebrate 100 years, so to speak, that unity problem is still there. Is this a universal thing, or is it just about us?
Yeah, it is our failure that we have not been able to create a Nigerianization of this society. People here in this country are first members of their ethnic groups before they see themselves as Nigerians. That remains a big problem, and that big problem is still there. The expression of it, the clear expression of it, is that in 2014, after 100 years of existence in amalgamation, we are going to have a national conference where this problem is going to be, which we are looking for solution for this problem. Since that time, since 100 years. So if you look at amalgamation on the basis of the Nigerians coming together as one, it was a total failure. But if you look at it as a fusion of administrations, of the Northern Protectorate and the Southern Protectorate, like I said, it's a piece of cake for any administrator to do when you compare it with the serious job of forming a nation out of a heterogeneous nationality as we have.
Because some people have gone to the extent of saying, and in fact an extreme of saying Nigeria is a mistake.
Well, what they give these, look, I think creating a big Nigeria is a very good thing, not only for Nigerians but for all black people. This is the biggest concentration of black people in the world, and if we can have a collective voice that is informed by oneness, by unity, then we are going to be in a very strong position to not only protect the interests of Nigerians, but also speak out whenever black people are abused anywhere in the world.
All right, we'll come back to the issue you mentioned earlier on the national dialogue when we return from this break. Join us again.
Today, we are not just celebrating a new year, but we are celebrating a special new year. A new year that Nigeria, modern Nigeria, is 100 years. And we use this period to begin to think what will be Nigeria in the next 100 years. Not just to celebrate 100 years of the amalgamation of Northern Protectorate and Southern Protectorate to make the modern Nigeria, but what will be the future of our children, our grandchildren, in the next 100 years.
Welcome back. We're still with the Professor of Political Science and a former consultant to the United Nations, Professor Ebere Onwudiwe. Thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you very much.
Well, still on this issue of the Centenary celebration, you mentioned earlier about the national dialogue and all the problems that's associated with it. Now, what exactly is your perspective on this? Is this the right solution to the political crisis we're facing now?
Well, I think it's really brilliant to make the people talk if they have problems, if they have issues to be resolved, to bring them to the table and have them speak to those issues until they reach a solution.
But how much faith do you have in this proposed dialogue?
Well, I think it does have the support of the government, of our current government. And I think if it is structured in such a way that a lot of people are going to accept it, it should happen. It should be able to create or come up with solutions to some of our problems. Because you see, the biggest problem we have goes back to the points that we made before, and that is we have a problem. We have a nationality question, and this nationality question is that we now have a country in which there is basically very limited agreement on who is a Nigerian. In the sense, of course, we know who is a Nigerian by passport and so on, but on the Nigerianness in all of us. And if we can, for instance, take the issue of this indigeneity problem. Look, if we can amend, if they reach in a talk, go to the table and agree to amend the Constitution, even if not writing a brand new one, so that everything that makes every person feel uncomfortable. Look, if I go to a state, how long does it take me to become a citizen of that state? And if I'm a Nigerian and I come to, if I come from Imo State, and I go to Lagos State, and there in Lagos, I will never have a full right of a Lagosian for as long as I live. Why would I see myself as a Nigerian first? But if we can now go to our constitution and amend it, and every place we have indigene, we remove it and put resident. So that if I go to Lagos or you come to Imo State, and we have a rule, a constitutional provision that it takes you, once you stay 5 years or 4 years or 3 years in this state, then you have all the rights and privileges appertaining to anybody born in that place. If we don't have to use your parents, your grandparents being born in a place to make you a citizen there, then we are going to be resolving a lot of the problem that is created between people's ethnic group and their Nigerianness.
Let's understand now, because this national dialogue, sometimes many people say that they have absolutely no faith in it. It just might go down the same way others have gone. And of course, the implementation problem we are facing in the country could just, impede on certain, the goodwill of the people, yes, so to speak. So why go ahead with something like this?
Well, the people have a good reason to say everything you have said, to take that position, because we do have a record of not implementing, yes, recommendations that have been made by committees that we have appointed. And it is not limited to this government. It's something that has been going on for a long time. And these talk shops come and they reach very important decisions and nobody implements them. So they become instruments. They become political instruments. And for many people, this may be one of those. And who knows? It's not for me to say whether, I'm not in the mind of the president who convened it, to say whether he is going to do like other presidents had done in the past, or like his own administration has done with some other committees that have been set up. And people are saying, look, what did you do with this committee? Why are we calling this one? So people, all the Nigerians are justified to be a little reticent about this thing. But I think that this country needs to, first, our ethnic groups need to come together, or their representatives, is what I mean, come together to take part in a dialogue that will eventually have the force of law. Because if we have a dialogue that doesn't have the force of law, it's rubbish.
Yeah, you know something, our leadership style, leadership system, so to speak, really buttresses this fact and the views of people that this might not, see the light of the day. Well, so what really is your own perspective on how our leadership style, how it should be?
Well, I really think that a lot of our problem, and this is like a broken record, is that's leadership issue in the problems that we're facing in this country. We need courageous leadership. It is not easy to unite a country because you have to make a lot of personal sacrifice to be able to do that. So we need a leadership that is characterized by integrity and courage. And you have that courage, then you can take positions that is against your own ethnic group in order to come to a consensus that will move the country forward. We need such leaders that will demonstrate high profiles and courage.
You know, when you talk about broken record, I had to heave a silent sigh of whatever it is, because really we have so many broken records. We have a lot of them. And of course, and looking at the security situation, it doesn't give much hope that this would not be tampered with. What do you think?
Yeah, well, you know, I think a lot of our problems, their sources can be identified. It is not enough to use force alone to take care of these security problems, or to use butter alone to do it. You know, I mean, you really need to go to the root of it. And the root of it is very, very important. The root of it goes to all these ethnic issues that we're talking about. It goes to the issues of injustice in terms of resource distribution in this country. It goes to the issues of our inability, our economy's inability to solve the problem of poverty and illiteracy. It goes to so many issues that are not at once immediately political, as some people say, or religious. So it has to be a holistic approach in the solution of the problems that we are faced with. I'm not saying that some of these problems are not political or even religious, but I'm saying that in totality, it will become more difficult to recruit the foot soldiers to participate in these security issues if we improve the situation much more generally in the country.
Now, as a professor of political science, a former professor, what really is your assessment of the political future of Nigeria? Now, we have less than a few months, so to speak, to 2015. What do you think is going to happen, given the situation of things now?
Well, you know, there was a prediction by the U.S. intelligence group that this country is going to dissolve, or come to
but I'm glad you came to that.
Yeah, came to a point of disintegration come 2015. What I can say is that these things are based on scenarios that are built by these intelligence services. And these scenarios are informed by actual variables that are plugged in and come up with these scenarios that inform their predictions. So, while these predictions are, while so many people have predicted Nigeria's death for so many times, but if each time it comes, we consider the source and we take it very seriously. And we take our eyes on, we put our eyes on the message, not on the messenger. And if we put our eyes on the message, then we will ask ourselves questions. What kinds of variables informed their predictions? And we will find that maybe some of these variables actually exist. Maybe our income distribution, maybe the poverty rate, maybe our population growth, and is a mismatch with our economic growth. There's so many things that come into the decision that we need to actually not sweep under the carpet, that our country need to face squarely and address them ourselves before these predictions come to pass.
Very well. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, Professor Ebere Onwudiwe, Professor of Political Science and, of course, former consultant with the United Nations. Thank you for coming on Dateline Abuja.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, we have tried to exhaust matters concerning Nigeria's centenary celebration, but of course, this is one subject that continues. Share your views and comments via the address and Twitter handle right on your screen. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I'm Gloria Umezuke. See you again.